Well, welcome to Cody, Wyoming, home of Wyoming Armory, which was originally founded by the Freund brothers, whose shops opened up in those hell-on-wheels towns that were following the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. Also home, just down the road here, of the Winchester Reference Collection, started by a fellow named Oliver Winchester. Now today, we've just got a short episode for you, and I'm hoping it will be helpful to those of you who are fans of the 1886 Winchester. Now, we've come across an issue from time to time with 1886s that really has a simple fix, but can be just aggravating to troubleshoot and figure out what's going on. And we tend to try to overcomplicate it and tear the whole gun down and scratch our heads and pull our hair out, because it really affects the cycling of these things, makes it really stiff. And in the case of this particular firearm, it won't even let it cycle work all the way, so the carrier isn't even rising in this thing. Now this old girl has a few problems, including probably the ugliest fake case colors I've ever seen on a firearm, and we're going to take care of that as well, but that'll be an episode for another day. So we're going to get into this. We'll show you what's going on here and how to fix it, and we'll have a few minutes extra. We'll look at a couple of ways that we can help slick up an 1886 action. Now, to help demonstrate this, we've got a properly functioning 1886 here on the left, and some of you astute Winchester fans might recognize a pretty rare 7-leaf rear sight on this one. This one is going to get a full restoration, and that'll be another subject for a future episode. But watch as we cycle this thing now. If you look closely down into the action, you can see the carrier down there. We've just about got the lever completely cycled, and right at the very end, maybe the last 1/4 of an inch of travel of the bolt and the lever, that carrier pops up. Okay, we'll do that again real quick. Right there, we get it to pop up. Okay, on this 1886, our subject rifle today, while I smack the camera stand, see, it just doesn't pop up. It gets really stiff towards the end of the throw, and that carrier never comes up. So it's not cycling all the way. Something's binding, something's keeping this from cycling all the way to the end and popping that carrier up. Now, in the intro, I poked fun at this gun because, you know, the phony case colors are pretty atrocious on this one, a little hard on the eyes, but it really is a pretty cool and unusual 86. You know, most of the pistol grip 86s had deluxe H-pattern checkered wood, and then you know, on the occasional one that had straight grain pistol grip like this, most of those are I-pattern checkered, which was kind of a lesser checkering pattern. But to see a pistol grip plain wood straight grain with no checkering at all is kind of an unusual one, and it deserves to be made to look right again, and we will sometime. But until then, it's not going to be worth much to anybody if it won't cycle. And so we're going to open it up all the way here, and that carrier isn't coming up, and we can't finish the cycle, and so I'm going to fix it for you here in a jiffy. Now watch closely what I do. So this is the screw that holds the mounting plate for the loading gate here. We're going to back that off about a turn and then reach down and go. And now it cycles all the way, and it's nice and really slick and loose. You see, the whole issue is that screw is just a little bit too long, and this is probably the 4th or 5th time I've run into that in the past. And interestingly enough, there was just a post on the Winchester Arms Collectors Association forum recently about somebody running into the same issue, and I picked this gun up and it had that, so I thought that'd be a good subject to kind of share with people. One of the issues is that this piece, this kind of mounting bracket, had a couple of different iterations, and one of them's thicker than the other, so there's 2 different lengths of screws. So all we're going to do now, instead of just leaving it loose like that, we could shorten it, but we've got another correct length screw right here handy. So we'll take this one out, and it's just slightly longer than the one we're going to put in it. If you can see that there, we've got this correct one, actually has correct case color hardening on it. And one of the things a lot of people don't know is that these screws from this time frame, the heads, or the whole screw actually, was color case hardened. So that would be the correct finish. And actually this mounting plate was blue, or no, it was case hardened, and the loading gate itself would have been blued originally. And when we fix this gun up right, it will be again. Okay, so let's test it out. Get her. There we go. And like most 86s, with the hammer cocked on this one, it is pretty doggone slick. Yes, it's just that quick and easy to fix it. If you just start there first, always check that. If you've got an issue with cycling on an 86, back that screw off a little bit, try it again, and that may be all it is. And I got to admit, the first time I ran into this, I had the gum apart and back together again several times, trying to figure out what was binding up, what was broken in there, and finally cycled it without the loading gate attached, and it just cycled like a dream, and then kind of chased it down. So I also mentioned that I will give you a few tips on slicking up an 86, and most of these, you know, if you cock the hammer on them, they're really slick most of the time. But like almost all of the repeaters from that era, it's the bolt coming back that cocks that hammer. So with an 86 or most any other of that era, we have to overcome that mainspring with the lever, and that makes it stiffer. Okay, and the 86 has a particularly wide and thick mainspring. So a couple things we can do here. Now one, of course, we've got a mainspring strain screw down here in the lower tang, and make sure that's backed out to where it's just tight enough that it's not going to work its way out on its own. Rarely do we need to add extra strain with that strain screw. So we can back that out. That's going to take a little bit of the strain off of this hammer and make it a little easier cycling. If that isn't enough for you, we can always thin the mainspring. Now, I'm not going to show you how to do that in this episode. I've done that in at least a couple of episodes in the past, so you can look those up, or it's not hard to find a way that you thin them. And what I do is I only thin the part in the back of the bow here, and I leave them full thickness and kind of take the edges off so that we have full thickness, but we've removed some of the material basically off of the edges on the back side of the bow. And then polish it up real good, get the scratch marks off. Now there's one other thing that we can do that is kind of particular to 86s. While the mainspring is more of a universal fix, these 86s have a carrier spring that we can help slick that up a little bit. Let me show you how that's done. Now here's a carrier for an 1886. And what happens is, when we cycle the action, this bolt comes back, and at that very end of the throw, that last quarter of an inch or so, hits this block on the carrier, lifts it up. And that's what lifts the front edge of the cartridge up so that it can be chambered. Now, we have to have a way to keep this carrier in the raised position when we start to close the action, when the bolt starts to come forward. Otherwise, this would just drop, and that front of that cartridge would stub on the bottom of the barrel. So what Mr. Browning designed in an 1886 that's a little bit different than we see in the other designs is that we've got this carrier spring back here coming in from below the upper tang, and that spring looks like this. Here's an example of one of those springs. It's got a little nubbin right here on the end of that spring, and that hooks right over a little groove back here in the back of the carrier, so that when it rides over the top of that, hangs onto it, and it doesn't fall until it's manually, or the cycle or the action pushes it back down and disengages. Okay, so ones that are well used like this, I don't know if you can see it very well, but these are both pretty shiny down here. So probably aren't going to gain much by polishing these up, but particularly on newer reproduction guns that haven't been cycled all that much, we can gain quite a bit of smoothness in that action by polishing those up. And we don't want to remove material from them per se. We just want to slick them up, polish them up real good with a stone or some very fine paper. If we take too much off, of course, we can get it to droop and it's not going to hold up all the way, and we can get that stubbing action on the bottom of the barrel again. Well, I hope these were some valuable tips and tricks for you 86 fans out there. And keep an eye out, because very soon we're going to take this gun apart. We're not going to do a complete restoration on it, but we are going to replace these what appear to be kind of torch applied faux case colors with some traditional bone charcoal case colors. I think you'll be shocked at the difference. So thanks for joining us today. I hope you learned a little something. Until next time, happy trails from Cody, Wyoming and Wyoming Armory.